Hello, and welcome to Havoc Wargaming, dedicated to bringing you the uncommon. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Ron, and today I'm going to do a box opening video of the Kickstarter by Flags of War for Border Wars under a Reiver Moon. So let's get started. I've had a strong interest in the Border Reivers and the border areas of Scotland ever since reading George MacDonald Fraser's excellent book Steel Bonnets back in the late 70s. And for about a year now, I guess, I've been, maybe even longer than that with the buying of figures, I've been slowly working on a project behind the scenes to war game some of the excitement and the adventure of the Border Reivers. Recently, I participated in the Flags of War Kickstarter for Border Wars. And after some delay, because of course, several strikes to the Royal Post, and then a cyber attack on the same postal system, I finally have got that Kickstarter here. So I thought what I would do is go ahead and do a box opening and talk a little bit about what's inside that box. So let's go to the gaming table. Here's my box. This took a long time to get here. It's the problems, of course, had nothing to do with Flags of War, but rather stem with the issues that the Royal Mail was suffering from in December, various strikes and things. This package sat for a full month in the post office in Scotland. They put it in the mail on, what was it, the 11th or something of December, and it was there until just about a month later. Just crazy. Yeah, 11th December. At least as late as the 7th of January, it was still sitting in Scotland. But finally got here. A lot of people already had theirs, so I'm a little jealous of that. Let's take a look and see what's coming in the box here. So there are a number of tokens. The tokens are, what is this, MDF? It looks like pre-painted MDF. This is being done more and more in the genre, in gaming, and I really like these pre-painted tokens. They're really sharp. I'm not always thrilled about lots of games that use tokens, so it's the nature of this game that they don't actually have to be on the table. They can't. This does use cards to represent the characters, and these show the different statuses. The green ones are, there's activated, there's wounded, there's firearm or ranged weapon difficulties. They're calling that jammed. I wish they'd gone with a different name. Most of these firearms, in fact, cannot jam, but there's other things that, you could view them as misfires. A lot of the firearms could have misfires. They specifically mention in the rules that a crossbow could have damaged strings. So that's the way to think of the jammed rule. Stuns, these look like they're prisoner tokens. These are guards, which looks like it's like an Overwatch sort of arrangement. I haven't fully read the rules yet, so can't say that I follow all of that or know all of that. We'll start with these here. These are cards. There's various cards. This is a specialist card, the Queen's Envoy, the Envoy's Assistant, and their lackey. I am not sure, but I'm highly suspicious that these characters are based on Blackadder, Lord Percy, and Baldric from Blackadder. The pictures don't look quite like them, but the descriptions of the characters fit really well. And these are some specialists that you can enjoy, and some special ability cards that go with them. Slippery for the Envoy, Buffoon for his assistant. So these give various extra abilities to the characters. These, I think, are all specifically, it looks like, for the what I think were stretch goal characters. I can't quite recall, but I believe those specialty figures were stretch goals. They're in here. I see them there. Then what are these? Weapons and equipment. Border Barons again. These made Farmer's Wife and Farmer. I think these were also part of that additional or stretch goals. They there's a handful of civilians, a farmer family. The cards. There's cards for each of the characters, so that's what those are referring to. That give their names and their stats, and it's a very small level skirmish game. And keep with our theme of cards here. Oh, there's a lot of cards here. All right. So these are the regular special abilities cards that give your heroes their special abilities and things. slippery, tough as nail, expert Reiver. Gives them a little individuality. Don't entirely know whether you assign them cards or whether you randomly pull them. As I mentioned, I've only started to read the rules, so I don't really know the game very well. I actually bought the game for the figures, but I will go ahead and give the rules a try. They sound interesting. The event cards, certain times during the games you get to pull these event cards, and they do various very theme-related things. This first one, for instance, refers to a famous quote, which when I think it was a local minister complained that there weren't, aren't there any Christians amongst you? And his response was, no Christians, just Elliots and Armstrongs, two of the major families of the border. These will help mix up the feel of your standard scenarios by giving interesting events. Heroic actions, the heroes get to do special heroic actions. That's what makes them heroes. I don't know a whole lot about the use of these cards either, except I do know that they are not specified to which hero or who gets to use them. You have them, I guess, in your hand and can apply them as you see fit when the time comes. These are the characters that I was saying I was referring to as the additionals. These are, in fact, the envoy. Yeah, I mean, they look a lot like the artwork. They don't look specifically like the characters that I was referring to, but they are the right time frame for the second series of Blackadder, and their character traits seem very similar. And frankly, the assistant and the dog's body, the servant, do have a strong resemblance to the characters in the previous mentioned TV show. The envoy himself a little bit less so, but still I think they were probably inspired by that. These will be fun little characters. Queen's Envoy Party is what they're calling it, though the rules call it Queen or Kings, so a little variety there. Queen, of course, being Elizabeth. And this is the farmer family. Civilians will play an important role in a game set in the Scottish borders. They're often the victims. And I mean that. We do tend to romanticize. Here's one riding a horse, a wannabe Reiver child. Oh, there's two of those. I wonder if they're supposed to be. They're pretty similar too. Styx looks a little different, but that could interesting. Oh yeah, and their hats are different too. This one's got a kettle on his head, and this one is wearing a normal flat or a town cap. I should have brought some of my other figures here to see how they rate. These look like they may be a little smaller. The rules mention that they will play well together. I'll try to do a comparison of some of the other already existing Border Wars figures or Scottish Border figures alongside them. These are the basic starting box sets. There's a mounted one and a foot one. These are, of course, the mounted ones, and mounted is a major part of the culture of the Reiver. Oh, that's nice. They actually come with bases. That's always nice. The game recommends a 25 millimeter base for your foot figures and a 40 millimeter for the mounted. As I suspected, the character cards are coming in the box sets. There are cards like this for each of the characters in the game, including the envoys and the civilians that we saw earlier. These are the main players. There's a place for his name. It shows his level. This is leader, how much he costs. That's for building your family. His various stats. The figure that is represented by the card, and then what weapons he's armed with. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There should be 5 mounted cards in here. I'm a little concerned that this original box set may not be enough to play a game, but we'll see. I'll probably buy more anyway, and I do have lots of figures from some of the other companies. So if they will play well together, that'll be good. Ah! Oh wow, the horses are in pieces. So Yeah, there's going to be some construction going on here. I'm not really a big fan of building models. These are really simple horses. Kind of smallish, but they probably ought to be, my understanding. While we don't fully know what the border horse was, it was a ponyish horse. This one's got 2 legs that have to be glued on. There's his front leg and his back leg. Seems odd that these had to be done in parts, but these figured they're a very soft lead. A number of the weapons are a little twisted. Nice sculpts. I do think they may be a little small compared to my other ones. Certainly more petite. The other ones may just be bulkier, but nice looking sculpts though, and that's a nice looking horse. And he's got a wheel lock there in his in one of the pistol buckets. One's empty. It's probably because he's got one in his hand, I'm assuming. Another mounted fellow. Yeah, this is probably the one that goes with that horse. He's got a wheel lock right there, out in his hand. So the box set comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mounted figures. That's probably not going to provide. The only way I think I can provide a game is by either mixing my mounted in my. There's a little targe, little teeny targe. Lead spears. Not a big fan of. Well, they're lances, I suppose. Actually, not a big fan of lead lances. I may end up replacing these with wire ones. They're not bad looking, but they always bend and sort of keep them in their shape. That will be an advantage, though, of them being separate, as I can easily replace them if I want to. That's a full crossbow. Crossbows were used very frequently by the Borders, and also a latch, which is a little like pistol-sized one. All right, these you're gonna have to give a little concern or thought and care on, or look at the art. These horses are different from each other. There's a shield in there. So, and that often ties in with the weapons the guys are carrying. So, I'm not sure how interchangeable the horses are. But they're good-looking figures. Like I said, I think they may be a little smaller, but I'll confirm that before you guys see this. I'll get some of the other figures together with these, and we'll show you how they actually compare. Maybe my memory is wrong. Oh, these are tight. These are the foot fellows, the fit guys. Again, 25 millimeter bases for those. Cards for each of them, just like before. This is going to be something that they do. So I could play a game right now, I imagine, by doing mounted against foot, as if they were the defenders of the place. But I suspect that the idea is that you buy 2 boxes really to make a family. That's probably the leader. Yeah, that's the leader. Jabard or axe, another twisted sword. Yeah, it looks like these are nice archer. It's a nice looking Elizabethan period figures. There's a beautiful, beautiful matchlock. Probably a caliber, I would argue, from the size. It's a caliber man myself. A bent sword, or looks a little small for a sword. Oh, you know what? I think he's probably a sword and dagger man. Yeah, he probably gets one of these. This probably goes on him. Maybe not. Maybe it's this one. Yeah. That's a nice action figure there. Very nice. I really like the sculpts. They have some character to them. They're very well done. Nice texture. This guy's doublet is just gorgeous. Looks like it's a pierced work doublet. Really, really nice. Fellow with a torch there. There's rules I noticed for the torches, so that's nice. The figures looked really good when I first saw the ad for this. That's really what inspired me to go ahead and do this, and the fact that I'm very interested in the Border period and wargaming that period. I haven't done any wargaming of that period yet, but I've been preparing it forever. Get our box out of the way here. And lastly is the rule book. And this is a softcover book, really, really colorful. Not a lot to it, but I didn't buy it for the rules. It's written by Ian Kerr MacDonald. Kerr is a good border name. So, lots of artwork all throughout this. It's a pretty attractive looking little book. There's an introduction to the book itself, right here, and then an introduction to Border Reivers themselves, for those people who may not be familiar with it. And then there's a picture of James VI and Elizabeth I there. A number of photographs of reenactors. I think that's interesting, and some of the talk about some of the legends. There's a lot of legends, a lot of romanticization at this period. And so that's a lot covered in here. There's a colored map of the marches in question and the different locations. Not sure how important that is to the game, but it is good for the feel and creating the idea of the game. What you need, typical what you need section here. It's pretty similar. I like this. He has a section on period music and a QR scan to a Spotify list that I'm assuming, I haven't listened to it, but I suspect it's made up of a lot of that music. So that's an interesting idea. Game is a small level skirmish. It's designed to be played on a small table. They mentioned 3x3 as a common idea. They mentioned that a smaller table will get you into the action quicker and make for quicker games. You're not just moving around, so I like that. A section in the beginning that talks about the basic meanings and rules and concepts, various concepts for the basic game. A picture of the two sets that I just bought. This is basically everything that came with my Kickstarter, all done up together in a little set package. It seems a little like filler to me, but again, as I mentioned, the rules are not in depth, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. I'm looking forward to giving them a try. Description of how the cards work. Description of how the tokens work. There's a section, I should mention this because I keep talking about those cards. There's actually a section here for creating your own. I mean, this is the normal purchasing system, using the cards we just saw to create your family. But there's also a ability to make custom character profiles and to create them yourself. So I'll probably do that with a lot of my other characters to fill out my sides. It's the nature of my group and the fact that I'm the one who's playing this are as interested in this that I will probably end up having to build at least 2 armies and supply my opponents as well as myself. This is a list on how the equipment works. There's also a section for providing equipment. You have to use your points not just to buy your guys, but for also to buy their horses and any equipment that they're armed with. There's limits to what they can be armed with to keep it realistic and to fitting into a sense of reality. You can't just keep constantly piling up stuff on them. Here's what I was mentioning earlier. There's rules for the use of the fire torches and a section on banners, which I think is a little odd. They even seem to think it's odd. Here's a description of how those skilled characters work. Those are the Queen's Envoy, the Envoy's Assistant, and the Envoy's Lackey that I mentioned earlier. These ones I don't think are out yet, or maybe they were add-ons that I didn't buy. But there's a Houndsman. Borders use sleuth hounds very frequently, and there's a section here to allow for the use of sleuth hounds in the game. There's a minister, a herdsman, various special skills, doctor, surgeon, thief. Then that goes right into the game setup. It starts with the game setup. I'm setting up with the rules. It shows a pretty looking little preset table there with a couple of craft cottages and a Bastille house. Gives you an idea how the table should be set up, basically. Then come the actual game rules. And I haven't actually read those rules. I don't really know how the game plays right now, though I noticed the stats seem to be basically dice. So it's probably how many dice you roll or what kind of dice you roll. sort of game. It is a roll for activation game, so you do have the possibility of not having full command and control, it looks like. This section is all about rules. They look well laid out. They're, again, lots of little, there's setting fires for burning your attack houses. That should be a big part of what's going on here. Rules for opening doors, stealing, that's of course what you're mostly after. Rules for swapping objects, that's good. That's something that's often neglected in games. You can apparently change over livestock that's being taken or hand weapons to each other. It's nice that they've thought that through. That's sometimes neglected. The close combat rules. There's actually more rules in here that I think I remembered. I did briefly look through the book earlier. A lot of pictures to give you ideas for setting up your tables. Here's some more here. You can see what I mean about those figures. They're just really nice looking. Section on taking wounds, mounted rules. You gotta have mounted rules for a Border Morris game. Here's a kern fighting. You can't even see that. You still can't. Here's an image of a kern fighting a Border Reiver. One of the reasons this was promoted and both sides allowed, and by both sides I mean England and Scotland, allowed the craziness that was going on the border, was it kept a good source. Well, one, it provided a little bit of sort of an early warning and buffer area between the two nations in their frequent wars in the late 15th, early 16th century, in the 16th century. And but it also provided an excellent quality of light horsemen, scurriers or hobblers that are being used in proper wars, and that includes in Ireland. And I like the fact they allow for that. They talk about that a little bit in the book, about using them for campaigns in Ireland. I may actually do some of that, as I have a large number of kerns available for, never mind the billhooks. The rules for prisoners. Command points, there's clearly some kind of command structure that goes along with what I mentioned about the having to attempt to activate. There's something here about valiant death. That sounds interesting. It sounds like you can, let's see, leaders and heroes that have taken their max number of wounds and are about to become a casualty can go out fighting in a last-ditch valiant death. Leader can spend a command point on themselves or a hero to carry out the valiant death. This will allow them one last immediate attack in close combat or a charge of up to 6 inches on any rival character. The attacking character does not gain any modifier during close combat. This command can be issued at any time in the game. That's cool. And there's a picture of a Border Heidman giving one last charge of the valiant death. Another quote. Lots of quotes in here to give you some feel for the period. It's a great period. The Border Reivers period is a great period for doing skirmish games. It's kind of land pirates. So I'm really looking forward to giving it a try, and I'll do some of that here on the channel. There's rules here for entering buildings, movement within those buildings, barring doors from the inside, shooting from buildings, shooting into the buildings, a number of civilian rules, sentries. This is all very important. These are under the advanced rules, but things like this are all very important in a game like this. Setting fire on buildings, I mentioned, that was commonly done. So all of these things are going to be of value to playing the game and getting the feel of a Reiver game. I'm a little confused, and maybe I'll see if they have some stuff online. I thought that I'd heard people talking about some clever rules for a campaign of the game, and I'm not seeing anything campaign-wise in here. But speaking of that, here are the scenarios. The next book is the section of scenarios, and there's a number of simply laid out scenarios. There's to the death, a foray, hanging. Looks like it's probably saving somebody about to be saying. Hunt, Borders, Luck, and Vengeance, all suitably named. There's a list of famous families and some of the main famous members of those families of Reivers. Give you some more feel for the period, but also to help you come up with names. There's great use of nicknames and in naming procedures in the period that could be an awful lot of fun. Yeah, that's well worth looking at. A whole glossary of the language. Yeah, Galloway nag or pony. Those are the horses I was referring to earlier there. What most of these horses probably were, and they're extinct today. But that's mentioned in here. They look like they did a good job and put a bit of research into it. I mean, I mentioned earlier the book came from Scotland. They're obviously Scottish themselves. And I think there's a fondness for the Reiver period at Flags of War, and I think it's well represented by the book. More sections in the back showing some of how the modern borders are affected by the Reiver culture, border ball games, the Havoc common writing, some of the statues and things, and some of the surviving buildings that are in the borders today. An ad for Sarisa. Sarisa does some nice things for the period. The Bastille House, or Bastille House, not Bastille, I keep saying Bastille. The Bastille House I really like. I have one of those. I'm not familiar with this church, and I may get one of those now. I have the Peel, and that's nice. There are also nice some buildings that are put out by Things from the Basement. And, I can't think of the name of the guy. There's a gentleman who makes a bunch of figures for the period already. He has the old Vendel line, and he does some little buildings, some MDF, but it's mostly resin. I think I covered those in a video earlier, but I'll find out what their name is and I'll put them here. The figures are really nice, and so I'm embarrassed that I can't think of the name right now. The buildings are nice too, but they're a little smallish. They have a really good period feel, but they are a little small. I suspect they may be recastings from earlier periods back when buildings were almost always out of scale. So this was exactly my concern. I have here laid out in front of us 3 different manufacturers. I have the Flags of War guys right here. These are from Colonel Bill, and these are from Hoka Hay. I think it's also Timeline Miniatures. And the foot guys alone, I think, are doable. The Hoka Hay guys are a little bulkier, but they don't look horribly wrong next to them. Well, maybe they do. Fortunately, I don't have a whole lot of the Colonel Bill ones. But again, they seem to be better sized with the Hoka Hay, which I think was originally Vendel or something, than the Flags of War. This is problematic more for me probably than anyone else. I have a lot of money invested already in figures for this period from other manufacturers that look a little larger. I should mention the horses actually, because that's a huge difference. This is the Flags of War horse. It actually looks kind of pony-like with the guys. It should be. That's what they rode, were ponies. But you can see the largeness of the Hoka Hay horse up next to it. That's a pretty distinct difference. It's a shame too, again, because a bunch of the Hoka Hay, they have like two different sculpts for the horses, and a lot of this stupid running goofy look. The Colonel Bills seem to be a little more aligned in size. This horse looks longer. He is. Well, not much, but they seem to scale up better. I will tell you this: the Flags of War guys are very well sculpted, very good looking, and have lots of really cool little period detail on them. Just wish they played a little nicer. I'm not sure what I'm going to do in the end on this. At present, the Flags of War line is not horribly complete. That's going to change. It's clear that they've got plans for coming out with additional figures, and they seem to be moving forward with those plans. So I don't think that's an unsurmountable issue or insurmountable issue. Yeah, I've got lots and lots of these Hoka Hays. There's no reason the game couldn't be played with Hoka Hay. I don't know. We'll see. We'll paint them up and see if it still seems as much of an issue when they're painted. Right now, This project is sort of a slow-moving sideline project, so I don't know when I'm actually going to get it all done. Not in a real hurry on that. So there you have it. Everything looks really nice. The figures are beautiful. A little small for some of the other figures that are out there. If you're just getting into doing tabletop wargaming in the Border Reivers period, you might want to hold off a little. I would, or maybe buy a couple figures. I mentioned the 3 main suppliers of figures that I'm aware of. The 2 of those do play well together. These Flags of War ones are a little small, and I'm not sure how well they play with the others. As I say, that may not be a problem for you. The others are just a little bigger and bulkier. But these are absolutely beautiful figures. So what I would suggest is you might want to get a few figures from a few of the different, or the 3 different lines, and look at them and decide what you think before you actually commit to what you want to do. These ones are just absolutely gorgeous, very well sculpted figures. The other ones are fun, and they're simply doable and certainly useful. I mean, I've got quite a few of the Hokahei ones. The reason I say hold off is that at present, Flags of War mostly only has the initial set that came with my Kickstarter, the original box sets. They're planning on growing the line from that. They're already working, according to the Facebook page, they've already released some images of some of the figures that are coming along. So they are working on it. I think it will expand, just as did their Jacobite line not very long ago. So I think you either want to hold off and invest in all Flags of War figures, or you want to not hold off and purchase from the other 2 companies where you can use them individually. If there's a way to see the figures, I'm showing some shots here. I don't know if that's really going to play well, but I really think if you're willing to spend the money to buy 1 or 2 from each side at night from the different companies, it may help you decide. You won't go wrong with any of them, and maybe it won't bother you interchanging them. That's your own issue. Maybe some of these figures, or some of these guys are just plumper and bigger and ride bigger horses. I don't know. Your call. Haven't had a chance to play the rules. I haven't even, in fact, finished reading them yet. They're very professional looking, and they look pretty simple. I think it'll play quickly. So I'm looking forward to getting a game up. I've yet to ever paint a Border Reiver character, so I don't know how long it'll take to get the figures painted. But once I do, once I get the project I'm working on now, the War of the Roses things out of the line and out of my way, I'm working for putting something together for 2 gaming shows here in Virginia that are coming up. But once I'm done with that painting, then I'm going to start working on these Border Wars, and I'll try to get a video up here to show these rules, the Border Wars, under a Reiver, or under a under a Reiver Moon, up here on the page. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions about these figures, or comments you'd like to make about what I've shown you here, or about some of the other figures that are out there, maybe you know other lines that I'm not aware of, and you'd like to share that with us too, go ahead and do that in the comment section down below. Also, if you have any ideas for further content you'd like to see us produce here on Havoc Wargaming, we look for those in the comment section as well. If you've enjoyed this video and you found it all useful, I hope that you'll hit like, and if you'd like to continue to receive notifications for videos like this one that may help you determine how to better spend your money or time in your tabletop wargaming hobby, then I hope you'll hit subscribe and ring our notification bell. Till next time, cheers.